Hi there, I am Councilmember Evan Glass, and I want to welcome you to my community conversations. Today we are joined by Linda Youngentob, who is the CEO of CollegeTracks. Linda, good to see you.
Thanks, it's great to be here. I'm very grateful that you're taking the time out to speak with me today.
Well, I am grateful for all the incredible work that you do here in Montgomery County, and I'm going to let everybody know that you do so much different work here in the community. So let's start unpeeling the onion that is Linda Youngentob. Linda, as CEO of CollegeTracks, tell everybody what CollegeTracks is.
Sure. So CollegeTracks is the organization in Montgomery County. Our mission is that, and our vision is that everybody in Montgomery County that would like to go to college should go to college, and that talent and dreams are evenly distributed in our society, but opportunity isn't. So we're there to pave the way for opportunity to get a higher education for those students who need it. We're in 5 high schools. We're in BCC, Wheaton, Watkins Mill, Quince Orchard, and Paint Branch. And we serve juniors and seniors. And we serve over 1,300 students, approximately 800 that are juniors and seniors, and 550 that are in college currently. We have a success program that students can sign up for that will help them all the way through to graduation.
Well, I wish there was an organization like CollegeTracks when I was growing up in New York, because I'm a first generation college student. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my mother, my single mother, and me, trying to figure out not only how we're going to pay for it, but what the process was. And we figured it out, right? But to know that there is an incredible organization of dedicated professionals who are helping move people up the economic ladder, the educational ladder, I think is incredibly wonderful. And so here we are for high school seniors who are waiting to graduate and waiting to go to college. This has got to be a tricky time for them. How are you working with all the students to get them through this stay-at-home time and get them prepared for college?
Well, so immediately when we saw this crisis on the horizon, we pivoted all of our in-high school programming to be done virtually. So all of our staff are now assigned a caseload, and we prioritize seniors, obviously, because they're going through the hardest part right now in terms of getting in their financial aid paperwork and making really hard decisions about where to go. And what we're seeing is a lot of students that we serve are first generation immigrants, having lots of difficulties with finances and challenges in their family. And this is just one other bump in the road that can potentially derail them. And I'm actually really worried. A lot of the national statistics are saying that 35% of all seniors are saying that they're most likely going to take a gap year. And I'm worried about what those students are going to do for a year, because there's not jobs out there. There's not study abroad or really cool gap year programs or community service programs they can do. So there's going to be around this whole country, even Montgomery County, these disconnected youth that are finishing high school and not having a place to go. The other thing that concerns me is there's a lot of uncertainty about what the universities are saying. Boston University is saying they may not even open in the fall. And then a lot of students are even saying, why would I go to college in the fall and pay all that money if it's going to be virtual? I might as well not go. Or wait to go later. But for our population that we serve, for them to not go means it's going to be really hard to get them back on track, especially if they're not connected to they won't be connected to MCPS anymore.
Are there any immediate needs here in the county that they're dealing with, whether it is internet connectivity at home or other financial constraints, recognizing that they might not be able to pay for it, or they might not even be able to pay their rent? So why would they even think about going to college at this point?
I think they need everything and anything that you can think of. We did a survey of our students that are in college and got the highest response rate that we ever had. And what we found was that 48% of them have experienced joblessness or job insecurity. 35% are suffering from anxiety and depression. And finding that actually the biggest issue that we're seeing, especially for the high school students that don't get a prom, they don't have may not have a graduation. So we're actually having a virtual graduation for them. The last week in April, we decided to split it up by each high school, and we're going to be doing 5 graduations virtually and 1 for our college students that are graduating from college.
That is wonderful. And I'll share with you that I did have your official graduation event on my schedule. And I know just like everything else, it got canceled. So I'm glad to know that you're still providing that support and celebration for all the students. That's really exciting. And so while you're dealing with the students now who are seniors, you have a bunch of students, hundreds of students, I'm sure, who are currently enrolled in college, but clearly they're not on campus. And so how are you working with them?
That's actually the population that keeps me up at night, because they lost many of them had on-campus jobs, so they lost their source of income, they lost their health care, not being on campus, they lost their housing, they lost their food supply, and they lost their social network and support system. And then they're sent home suddenly. Some of them still have things still in their dorm, to homes that they weren't really ready to welcome them back, dealing with a lot of stress already, and they may have downsized to a smaller apartment and don't have room for them to stay. And those are the ones that we're really worried about, because they're supposed to deal with all that, instability, and then at the same time, supposed to be continuing taking their classes online. And if you're an engineer or a chemist or a pre-med, like many of our students are, how do you take 5 online classes in a small apartment with all the stress around family issues? And you're so close to graduating, and you've done 6 weeks to graduation, and you may flunk your classes and not graduate. Like, that breaks my heart. They did nothing wrong. So that's what really makes me sad. And also, a lot of our students, because of their learning style, are not comfortable with online learning. So many of them may have taken an online class their freshman year just to experiment with it and didn't like it, or maybe didn't do well in it. And they're actually stopping college. We have students telling us, I give up. I couldn't even do 1 class online, and now I'm supposed to do 4 or 5. Like, I'm done. And a lot of our students, especially at Montgomery College, are just stopping right now before the semester's over. And that's really sad. Because they're worse off. Now they have debt that they wouldn't have had if they didn't even start the semester.
And as you've been doing some deep thinking about this, what do you think that this generation is going through, or what kind of supports do you think that they'll need moving forward?
So I've always been concerned about the students that are disconnected, that when they leave high school, they're not tracked anymore by high school. And when they start college, they're not really tracked by the college till they actually enroll. They're kind of in a black hole. And there's no entity in our society that owns those kids and is responsible for them or is rewarded for taking care of them. So in my dream world, that would be to create some kind of a grade 13, just special for this year, to capture the kids that are coming out of the high schools, the third of them, that aren't making any connections to anywhere, and come up with new and inventive and creative ways to keep them productive and positive and on a pathway, whether it's to a workforce kind of a job, or it's to college. But to do nothing, that's what's going to happen. That makes me really sad.
Well, I know that you've given a lot of thought to this, not only as the CEO of your wonderful organization, but you are an incredibly generous philanthropist here in the community as well. In 2018, I know that you received the Philanthropist of the Year award here in Montgomery County. I was at that ceremony and saw you give an emotionally beautiful, heartwarming speech to your colleagues and to peers and to nonprofit leaders. And so from your perch in the philanthropist world, what do you see the needs are these days? And where would you suggest other philanthropists, or those who are interested in becoming philanthropists, dedicate their efforts and time?
So this is a complicated question, and there's lots of conversations in the philanthropy community about what to do. A lot of philanthropists or individuals have reserves saved up to give in their donor advised funds for a rainy day when some things are bad. Well, I would like to tell you that this is the time to use those funds and to try to spend out your donor advised fund for this year if possible, because the needs are urgent and getting greater every day. And what I'm afraid of is not just the short term, like the next 6 weeks, but a year from now, dealing with the effects of this. So we're in this for the long haul and trying to figure out as philanthropists what to do. So many really sophisticated philanthropists and foundations, which I'm really grateful are doing this, are giving their grants earlier. They're not requiring such elaborate report writing and proposal writing, and they're putting it towards unrestricted funds. And what is hard is there's still some philanthropic organizations that are sticking to their mission that they only fund new programming. And that I wish would change, because that's not what we need right now as a society, is taking risks and innovation with new programming, but supporting the great work that really needs to get done on the ground today.
I think there's a lot of connection between what you just said in the philanthropist world, and then also local government as well. On various fronts, we have a rainy day fund where the county leadership, over the last decade has put 10% of all the tax revenue aside, so that if in the event we ever needed it, we would have it. And I absolutely agree with you. Today, we need it. And so the emergency supplemental spending that we are appropriating at the county level is coming from our rainy day fund, because if not now, when? That is exactly what those funds are to be used for. And then also regarding contracts and grants, I am working internally within county government to help repurpose existing agreements and contracts so that we can help the nonprofit organizations be more nimble and provide the services as best they can given this crisis situation we are in. There will be a point in time where we do some oversight and make sure that our policies and taxpayer dollars were used wisely. But right now we are in a full-blown crisis, and it requires some creative thinking. And so I think your thoughts regarding the philanthropist world and the grant making world should be and are being applied, at least here in Montgomery County as well. I know that you also just have some thoughts about the nonprofit community, which quite frankly is non-for-profit business, right? Everyone still has business models. Where do you think the nonprofit community is right now with regard to this crisis?
Yeah, so I think what is really, I'm as being a nonprofit leader, I'm getting increasingly frustrated that when people think of giving to a nonprofit, which is how I felt as a philanthropist as well before I took this job, it was all about giving money to the nonprofit, and it was about the people they served and helping those people. And now I know that we're a small business just like everybody else. And there's lots of dialogue of people saying, well, you have to support your local pizza place and buy pizzas to keep their staff employed, which is great. But if we had 40 pizza restaurants in my neighborhood, where I live right now, and we go down to 20, I'll still be able to get pizza. But nonprofits are also small businesses. The only difference is our tax status. I have 30 staff that are on payroll. I pay payroll taxes. I pay rent. I buy supplies. We're an economic sector in itself that if we go away, not only will you lose all those jobs and have the empty offices, but it will really have greater impact. I look at us as as small businesses on steroids, that we have an impact well beyond what the invisible impact. If we lose 40 nonprofits in our county, there'll be more homelessness, mental health, disconnected youth. I can promise you that, but I haven't seen people talking about let's give to nonprofits to save them and their jobs. It's only about let's buy from the restaurants to save them and their jobs, and that's.
And I think that's a really important perspective. I hope you take some comfort in knowing that at the council, when we appropriated $20 million to help our small businesses, we expanded it to for-profit and non-for-profit businesses, recognizing, just like you articulated, that there are nonprofits that have 30 employees, just like you have, that are doing incredible work, that have payroll, that pay rent, and are doing much needed and valued work in the community. And so I hope you and other organizations in Montgomery County have applied for some of that funding, and we're working through it right now. But given this crisis, given the dynamic that we're in, I know that your heart is in this for the right reasons. And I know that you really are looking out for the hundreds of students who CollegeTracks mentors, and that you have personally invested in from your own dollars. And so, I'll ask you one last question and try to make it as optimistic as possible. That what gives you hope in this point in time, in the middle of this crisis that we're facing?
Well, actually, a lot gives me hope. I think that this time that we're in takes really bold and courageous leadership from everybody, government, business leaders, education leaders, philanthropy, and that it's a really important time for people to really be bold and courageous. And the normal that we can look back on is not perfect. There's lots of inequities. There's lots of disparities between the rich and the poor, a lot of disparities in terms of how people are treated in our country, that this is an opportunity to take things to the next level and create a new normal that's better than what we had before, and to really engineer that intentionally and not just say, oh, this is how we did it before, let's recreate that, but to take it as a way to really grow and make our community better.
Well, and I will share with you that what gives me hope is knowing that we have people in the community just like you, and your staff and your family and so many others in our beautifully diverse community who are looking out for everybody else, because we are in this together, as we've all been saying. And so if other people want to get involved in your work or want to reach out to you, if they have any other questions or comments, how can someone follow up and contact you and learn more about CollegeTracks?
Well, the best way is to just email me directly at lyoungentob@collegetracksusa.org, or and there's a phone number on the website, and you can just give me a call. And I love to talk to anybody about this issue, and also to other nonprofit leaders, to have other thought leaders that we can come together and share, because this is a really hard haul for all nonprofit leaders to get both our staff and the clients we serve through this. And it would be great to get support from other people going through it together.
Absolutely. Well, Linda, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me and share more information with residents about the incredible work that's being done at the nonprofit sector, and then also the philanthropist sector as well, because while we're in the middle of this crisis right now, we know there's a lot of work that's going to need to be done moving forward in the short term, the next 3 to 6 months. But then with probably a new normal out there, what happens after that? And to make sure that our social safety net is as strong as it can be, so that we can make sure that Montgomery County remains a safe and healthy place where economic opportunity is abound for everybody, and education is there for those who seek it. So Linda, thank you so much for all the incredible work that you're doing. And for everybody watching, you can go to collegetracksusa.org if you want to learn more about CollegeTracks and the great work that they're doing. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you so much for all you're doing for all of on our behalf as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.